Good evening, friends, and welcome to the second to last edition of the 2025 version of Aydt Picks. But first, coffee. So my last version of Aydt Picks will be next week. Not this Sunday, but the coming one, December 21st. And that will be a show on the road. So for my Aydt Bite and coffee, as I usually do, I'm going to bring you some history. And my goal is to get history in 5. Tonight we will be covering Prussia and German aggression in 5. Ready, set, go! The German state of Prussia existed for almost 1,000 years, in theory at least. To understand the German Prussian state, you have to understand the Teutonic Knights and who they were. They were an order of German knights in the Holy Land during the Third Crusade. They were founded by 2 German merchants from modern-day Lübeck and Hamburg region in northern Germany. They ended up forming like a mercenary group that protected Christian sites and also the pilgrimages to the Holy Land, like similar to the Knights Templar, but they were German. So following the Third Crusade and the failure of Richard the Lionheart's armies to recapture Jerusalem from the Muslims, a group of the Teutonic Knights accepted a proposal from the Kingdom of Hungary to give them protection in exchange to set up a monastery there in their own land. Instead, the Teutonic Knights tried to form their own state within the Kingdom of Hungary. The Kingdom of Hungary did not like that and kicked them out. And instead, the Prince of Poland, modern day Poland, gave the Teutonic Knights land in the promise that they would crusade in the Baltics to convert pagan people to Christianity. And so they did this for a number of years. This was around 1225 AD. The Teutonic Knights crusaded in an area known as Prussia, which is in modern day northern Poland and part of Lithuania. And now it's also part of Russia and Kaliningrad Oblast. I'll get into that in another time, but I've only got 5 minutes. So basically, these German crusaders ended up being vassal states to the Polish king. And so that means that they had to pay homage to the king in exchange for their own land. And it's because they were knights, they took vows of poverty and chastity. That ended in the 1500s when one of their knights became Lutheran, and he got married to one of the Hohenzollern princesses. His name was Albert of Prussia, and Hohenzollern were also German. So they united, as a lot of monarchs did during the Middle Ages, even to the current day. They do that for political alliances. So the Prussian the Teutonic Knights who owned land in Prussia became their own state per se, because they united with the Brandenburg Crown, who would be the Hohenzollerns, which was the largest ruling family in Germany at the time and also the most powerful. Fast forward to the 1700s, Prussia would become its own state within Germany, within modern day Germany, and they would have aggression and military orders, and also the King of Prussia became the German Emperor. Kaiser Wilhelm II was the one that was the last king of Prussia. Prussia still managed to maintain its autonomy within the Weimar Republic in Germany and within Nazi Germany. And in 1945, the Allies decided that since Prussia was born in the age of crusading and always had a proud militaristic identity, that it would be good symbolically and realistically to crush Prussia from ever existing again. As one German diplomat, Friedrich von Schotter, said in the 1700s, Prussia is not a country with an army, but an army with a country. And it proved that all throughout its lineage. R.I.P. Prussia, 1190 to 1945. All right. Hopefully that was 5 minutes. I'll have to see later. I can ramble on and on about that topic and much more description. So for the Commander-in-Chief's trophy this year, I got to be honest, I haven't really followed Army and Navy that much. I know Army was really good last year and almost made the playoffs. If they would have beaten Notre Dame, they probably would have. I'm going to say Navy wins this year by the score of 34-31. So, for the Bowls and the first round of the playoffs, the Celebration Bowl, which starts this weekend on Saturday, it's going to be South Carolina State and Prairie View A&M. I don't know much about these teams other than their HB, the historic black colleges and universities. A lot of heritage, a lot of pride goes into these games. That's cool that these two can meet up in a bowl game. I think South Carolina State beats Prairie View by a score of 41-40. So, as promised, before I go into the rest of the bowl games, or at least the first round, it's so sad to me what college football has become. My dad played for Florida. I grew up in Gainesville, Florida. So, as you can imagine, my whole life has revolved around college football, like as a hobby. It's something I almost religiously followed. I know my religion is Christianity and my king is Jesus Christ. I always get to remember that first and foremost. But on this earth, college football is probably top 3 greatest hobbies, to be honest with you. And if I had my dream job, it would be as an analyst, an anchor for like a major network. And honestly, that's why I'm doing this show, is to try to get my name out there. And when I retire from the military, hopefully somebody will take a chance on me. We'll see. I mean, it's my dream. But with that being said, all that to say, I don't like what college football has become. Bowl games used to be a reward for a good season, especially in the 90s. I mean, like, you couldn't lose more than probably 5 games. Yeah, I think the maximum was 5 games. And that wasn't until, like, the early 90s. Like, even before then, like you could only lose 4. And they had less bowl games as well. So because of that, they were very selective in which teams could get in them. And so if you made a bowl game, you were doing pretty well. And people played for pride in those games, school pride, conference pride. And, you know, times have changed. College football has changed. I'm not going to go so much into that. Y'all have heard my spiel so far. Hey, Cousin Rob. Hey, Cliff. How are y'all doing? But bowl games used to be a reward for a great season, and now it's almost like they invite teams in bowl games who are mediocre. It's like almost like a reward for mediocrity now. It's not the same. I think there's too many bowl games, especially when you have the Xbox Bowl, the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Those are legit bowls. I'm not kidding around. What are they going to have next? The Beavis and Butthead Bowl? I mean, come on. It's really become a mockery of what college football used to be. So, I mean, I wish, as much as I wish I can change that and go back, it's just the modern day of college football. And because nobody takes the bowls seriously anymore, you have a lot of opt-outs. And now teams, it's not uncommon, like we saw with Notre Dame, like we saw with Florida State, and a few other teams, they refuse to go to bowl games. Notre Dame, because they got snubbed from the playoff, which is a shame. I mean, think of your seniors. Like, they've worked so hard their whole career, and I'm sure they want to go out playing their last game in a bowl game as for a memory, you know, to go out in the right way, whether win or lose. They want to go out in the right way, and I would be mad if I was one of Notre Dame's seniors. So, yeah, that's a shame. Nobody takes it seriously anymore. And why should they if it's just a reward for mediocrity? But at the same time, it's like, although I get it, it's just sad at what it's become. That's my point. And you have teams that shouldn't be in bowl games because they had a mediocre season. And I mean, I know it's about corporate sponsorship and money and all that, but yeah, it's just a shame. Like, and I wish college football, I mean, what it's coming to and what I foresee is, I think all bowl games, except for the ones in the college football playoff, they're going to call bowls, I think, are probably going to disappear if this keeps happening. It's just the writing's on the wall. And that's that. There's really not much more to say. But anyway, to the next bowl on December 13th, I've got the Bucked Up LA Bowl. And I'm guessing this is at SoFi Stadium where the Chargers and the Rams play. We've got Washington Huskies versus the Boise State Broncos. I got Washington winning that by a score of 42-28. It'll be a good win for Jed Fish, who's a Florida alum, and he's one of the candidates that people thought might take the Florida job. Maybe someday, I don't know. We'll see. But I think Washington will win by a score of 42-28. So, the Salute to Vets Bowl is our next bowl, and that's on Tuesday, December 16th. I've got the Troy Trojans from Troy, Alabama, playing actually an in-state opponent in Jacksonville State, Alabama. I've got Troy beating Jacksonville State by the score of 37-28. For my next bowl on Wednesday, 17 December, I've got Staff DNA Cure Bowl. These names, man, they're tripping me up. I've got South Florida's playing in that versus Old Dominion. I think South Florida beats Old Dominion by the score of 34-10. And on the same day, there's the 68 Ventures Bowl. I don't know if I've ever heard of that company, but Louisiana plays Delaware. And I've got Louisiana beating Delaware by the score of 31-21. And this one cracks me up because this is a legit bowl. We've got the Xbox Bowl. Yes, you heard it right. The Xbox Bowl. We've got Missouri State playing Arkansas State. I've got Missouri State over Arkansas State by a score of 34-16. On December 19th, we've got the Myrtle Beach Bowl. In that bowl, we've got Kennesaw State versus Western Michigan. I've got Kennesaw State by the score of 24-10 over Western Michigan. For the Gasparilla Bowl, which is also on December 19th, I've got the Memphis Tigers over the NC State Wolfpack by 1 point. I'm going to say NC State misses an extra point late in the game. And Memphis beats NC State by the score of 28-27. And I will pick the rest of my bowl games next week with the rest of my college football playoff predictions. But let's get into the first round of the college football playoff predictions. This one I am really looking forward to. This is going to be an amazing matchup because these two teams, up until about midway through the season, I thought were the best two teams in the country. One of them I still believe is, but they lost the last game to their rival and kind of fell apart in that one. But the introductory game to hopefully an amazing playoff is Texas A&M versus the U. Texas A&M gets the game at home. They're the 7th seed. I honestly believe, from who I've watched the whole year, the best two teams, and they're both in the SEC. They didn't play each other. But I believe the best two teams are Texas A&M and Georgia. Texas A&M, they kind of fell apart. That's what happens in rivalry games at Texas on Black Friday. They just couldn't get it right, man. They were in that game, but with a chance to tie it or win it towards the end. But Texas defense stepped up. They picked off Marcel Reed and made the stops when they had to. Arch Manning had a great game. And then Texas ended up on top. Miami, I've watched a lot of Miami this year. And in the trenches, man, they've got some outright studs. Those dudes, freaking Mario Cristobal recruits that. He's an offensive lineman. But they will bully you. Like, their defense is almost like the old U. like of the early 2000s and the 90s and the 80s. I think their stitch in the side is Carson Beck, because he's an interception king. So I think that's what ultimately separates the U from reclaiming their former glory. His poor performance versus Louisville and also versus SMU, in which he threw a bunch of interceptions. They still lost in a close game, but that made the difference in the game, but both games between Louisville and SMU, which they lost by close games. But yeah, as far as the U being back, they've got the blueprints, they've got the athletes, everything is there. I would say Cristobal's, as a coach, X's and O's wise, is probably a C plus. Like, he knows the trenches very well, the offensive line, the defensive line. But I've seen that man make some downright stupid, like Billy Napier-esque decisions. And like, he's lost, that's costed them games because of his poor in-game management and clock management. That, and then Carson Beck, will be the reason that the U has an early exit from the playoffs this year. Combined with the fact that they're playing in the 12th man in Aggie Land, which in my opinion is probably the third loudest stadium I've been in. I'll tell you what, it's louder than LSU. When that place is rocking, for sure. And I've been there when it was rocking and the 12th man gets going. That place turns into a house of horrors, a den of nightmares. And you better believe it'll be that way in the first round of the playoff. So I believe this game goes into overtime. I think Miami overcomes 2 Carson Beck picks. And despite those, it goes into overtime, 24-24. I think Texas A&M gets the ball first, and they get stopped within their 10-yard line and have to kick a field goal. And then I'm going to predict Miami goes with a run the first play, gains about 6 or 7 yards. Carson Beck drops back, doesn't read the eyes of the safety. The safety steps in front of it and gets the pick. Game over. And the U goes down to Texas A&M Aggies by the score of 27-24 in overtime. For my upset pick of the tournament, Tulane goes into Ole Miss for a hypothetical rematch. Now, granted, these are 2 different teams during the year. Ole Miss is not going to be the same without Lane Kiffin. Pete Golding's going to do what he can to keep the team together. He's going to be their new coach there, which was a nice move in the time that they had, because he's a player's coach from what I hear. Like, all the players like him. He was their defensive coordinator. I think he could kind of keep it together, but I think you can tell right away that even though Charlie Weiss is still coaching there as offensive coordinator for now, I think they're going to skip a beat, just because with all the drama that happened there and whatnot. Despite them beating Tulane earlier this year in Oxford as well, by a score of 35-10. I think Florida's new coach, John Summerall, makes some noise in the first round. They hold Ole Miss to 17 points. Tulane manages to score 21 and shocks the nation by pulling the upset in Oxford. It's going to be number 11 Tulane over 6th seed Ole Miss by the score of 21-17. So for the evening entertainment, I don't know why they didn't put this game at noon and the Texas A&M versus Miami game at night. I don't make those calls, but I think the best game is going to be A&M and the U, and it should be in prime time. But instead, we get James Madison, the 12th seed, the Cinderella team. Maybe if they win, they definitely will be the Cinderella team. They go out to the West Coast, and honestly, now that I think about it, that's probably why they scheduled this as the late game, because they got to go into the Pacific time zone. So this is probably going to be like a 4 o'clock game out there on the West Coast. Autzen Stadium is no joke from what I hear. One of the loudest and most hostile places to play in the country. Definitely going to give Oregon a home field advantage. James Madison is in the Sun Belt, and although they had a good season, I'm one of the folks that truly believe that even though they had a good season, they don't belong with the big boys. It is what it is. I mean, I'm excited for them, and they deserve to be in the playoff. Don't get me wrong. But I can see why a lot of teams that have had better records would be pissed off. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think this game will be close at all. I think Oregon dominates the whole game, and James Madison gets a late touchdown to make it more respectable. But I've got number 5 Oregon over James Madison in Autzen Zoo. So the team that Nike built over James Madison by the score of 56-17. Hope y'all enjoyed this second to last edition of Ayt's Picks for 2025. I promise you, I'll be giving the final edition in which I go through the next round of the playoff and then also reveal who's going to be in the finals and my national champion. And also I'll cover the rest of the bowl games. And that concludes Ayt's Picks for this evening. In the comments, if you like my Ayt's Bites in history, I'm trying to figure this out. I like doing it because I love history and I love teaching it to people. Let me know if there's a topic you would like me to discuss in history, and I will take requests for next week. And I'll put those also in consideration if yours is one that I didn't pick for next year's edition of Ayt's Picks. But yeah, thank you for listening. If you have YouTube, please go to my account and subscribe. I mean, I'm not asking you to watch this again. I thank y'all for your sacrifice and supporting me. I appreciate y'all so much. And I love y'all. And have a great weekend. And I'll see y'all next week. Aydt signing off. God bless.